Hi there. Welcome back to this latest installment of the Obsidian Mirror podcast. This is a little bit of a throwback for me. I haven't done a recorded audio only scrying session in several months. Really not since I was doing an Obsidian Mirror gaze every moon phase. I was doing them every first and last quarter moon, during the new moon and the full moon, and I might resume that because I was really enjoying it. I reached a point at that time where there were things I was seeing that I wasn't sure what they were or where they were coming from, and I felt like it was more responsible at that time to hold off until I felt a little bit more certainty about what exactly I was channeling, whether it was something that is really going to be wise to share or whether I needed to not share it. It took me a while to discern some of that. But I enjoy this format because it allows me the freedom to just do the gaze without the pressure of the camera rolling. And so I can just enjoy my time doing the gaze, and it doesn't matter if there's a big long silence until I see something else. So I might resume these where I do the gaze right ahead of making the recording, so that I can just gaze without having to feel the pressure of the message yet. And so that's what I did. I just sat down and did this gaze. And as you probably can tell, this has not been on a lunar cycle. We just came through a new moon in Gemini, but that's already decreasing in influence because I think we're about 3 days out now from that new moon. But I did want to share what I saw just now in the mirror. I love how this obsidian mirror has themes that seem to come through it more than any other scrying method that I use. There's some repetition coming through, which is in a nice harmonious way for me. So I'll share on these themes, and then I'm going to pull some cards at the end to just sort of bring them themes together possibly, and then I'll close this out. So the first thing I saw was a starfish, a yellow or an orange starfish. It looked very healthy and very beautiful. And so to me, that spoke to just the power of water right off the bat, the oceans, right? And then as I kept gazing, I started to see kind of two, what looked like white petals, very soft. They were large. They spanned the entire mirror, really, and they were petals of an old variety, like an ancient, like a larger bloom, maybe like a gardenia or a magnolia type flower where the petals are quite large, and they were white. And what it then started to look like was that really soft quality that Georgia O'Keeffe flowers have in her paintings. They felt very smooth, very feminine, very soft, very beautiful, white petals, very Georgia O'Keeffe. In fact, her name was in my mind's ear, right? So I knew that I was to mention her, not just the fact that I was seeing white flowers and white petals, but then I went on to see more and more white flowers. So there is something specific about white flowers here. Then a little more time went by, and it started to focus in on like a beanbag chair and a basement. A lot of it looked very 70s, like shag carpet, faux wood paneling, beanbag chair, velvet brown looking 70s couch. So something about a basement, maybe from somebody's memory I was seeing into with a beanbag chair. It's similar to a basement I had where I was growing up. But there's something to that for someone. It was almost like a game room, like a TV room type thing. Then it kind of panned out from that, and I saw a keyboard, like a keyboard for a laptop, but it was the kind that's ergonomic where it's split in half and at an angle. I don't have one of those, so that means something to someone. Sorry, I got distracted looking at my notes for a minute. I also then saw a mantis, like a mantid type creature, whispering into a human ear. So mantids are often considered kind of alien in nature, much like a starfish or an octopus. They're very foreign to us in a way, a foreign intelligence kind of in a sense, right? And so that was significant. I also saw a fox. Oh yeah, sorry, I skipped over a few things. That's why I was maybe distracted here. So I saw an old time phone. That was first off, and the sort of corona type, or not corona, but horn like listening part that you hold up to your ear and then you speak into a separate part. It was an old time phone. I saw the horn like part that has held up to the ear. Then that became the mantis whispering in the ear. Then I saw some cheesecloth, which is a very useful kitchen item, right? Cheesecloth, and then it kind of turned into a fox and a raccoon. It was going back and forth between a fox face and a raccoon face. Then it turned not from the old-time phone being held up to an ear or a mantis whispering in the ear. It was now an open book up against an ear, like you would be listening to someone narrate a story, but it was actually an open book. And then that eventually changed from listening to an open book into some kind of a fish hook caught in someone's mouth, like a 4-pronged fish hook, a really heavy-duty one that you would use to catch large fish, like either ocean fish or very large freshwater fish. But it was hooked into a person's mouth. It was strange, though. There was a quality to it of like really bloody injuring this person's mouth, but also sort of this gag image of like what used to happen in old vaudeville shows where when someone was being decided it was time for them to leave the stage, there would be this big hook that came out of the left or right side of the stage and hook onto the person's waist, and then it would pull them off the stage. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it was like a hook that would come off the stage side to pull people off when it was like they're past their due. They shouldn't be up there anymore. Let's get some new blood up on the stage. Something like that. But it was kind of dark too with that fish hook. Then it turned towards like an Arabic man. And the reason I say Arabic is because he was wrapped in linens or muslin like you would see someone wrapped in their headdress thing, like covering the head, covering the mouth, open at the nose and a little bit at the mouth so that the person can breathe. But they were looking back at me. It's like they were gazing from the mirror through the looking glass back at me. So it was like some type of conscious connection I made with that man, which was interesting. I couldn't see his face because, again, it was covered by the sort of cooling linens of that region. But then he turned into kind of an old carved face of a man with a Phrygian hat. And Phrygian hats have been coming through like crazy. Almost every time I scry, I see those. They're very interesting symbols, Phrygian hats. A lot of my obsidian mirror scrying sessions in the past have these channeled through Phrygian hats. Then it was showing me chess pieces, right? Next to the Phrygian hats, like maybe the rooks or the some of the main, not pawns, but some of the more higher powered players, right? Then it started showing me in white petals again, only the white petals became cowrie shells, and cowrie shells are used in divination. They were showing me the cowrie shells as a divination tool. And then after the cowrie shells went away, there was a very distinct tortoise face, a very large tortoise, ancient, wise tortoise face, staring at me again like that man was staring at me from the looking glass. Kind of what I was being made to understood was that this tortoise is gazing back at you in real time, as was the man across the world from me. Then it was showing black flowers instead of white flowers, and dying flowers, dying petals as they kind of float to the ground after falling off the stem. Then the Phrygian hat was back, only it became Marvin the Martian, and then lots of images of aliens. And so that's interesting as well. Then I saw a very distinct map of Italy, the outline of the map of Italy. I saw a diamond choker that a woman would wear around her neck. And then I saw what I can only describe as curves of light. I don't really know how to, it just kept showing me curves of light, like light being shown on a curvature or at an angle. And it was just showing me all different kinds of that, like the way that light gets directed to become on a curve somehow. I don't know what that means. And like I've said in other scrying sessions in the past, I try to refrain from interpreting all of this and just let the archetypes come through for you. But really interesting themes there. Now I'm going to go ahead, and that was pretty much where I closed the reading, was on the aliens that then were sort of more about now becoming that ancient tortoise. So now I'll pull just some tarot here cards and see what themes come through. There wasn't necessarily anything I needed to look up, which often happens after I did scrying. Before I did the recording, I would look up some things if I didn't know their meaning, but I don't think any of that happened in this. I think everything that came through, I mean, the black and white flowers is interesting. I'm curious about that, what that might mean. But, you know, flowers are healing, and flowers are a much later evolutionary plant than just green plants, right? Flowers came along much later. So I don't know. Two of Cups, so love is in play. And there was definitely a lot of big theme about listening and about communication. Ace of Swords, wow, that's interesting. Clear vision. Clear vision came through the mirror here. A new beginning. This indicates something in the mirror gaze, indicates beginnings, newness, and a turning over or a change. And I felt that. I could feel that energy as I was reading. Wow, Ace of Wands. So we've got two aces here. The fire of creation and the purest form of air. So we've got air element and fire element. Water element came through the gaze for sure with that starfish. That's so interesting. Nine of Swords. So there's some uncertainty maybe, and some more darker elements. Like when we saw that mouth with the fish hook, that was a dark thing that I saw. It wasn't very positive to see that. It was sort of anxiety inducing maybe, or distressing to see a human mouth hooked with this big destructive fish hook that's not just for small fish. It was for like large game fishing. So there's some uncertainty or distress that came through, in addition to the clarity and the newness of a turning over. And a Queen of Wands. So I think that's us. I think the Queen of Wands represents us doing the gaze itself. And these are the themes that we're to maybe think on or meditate on. Clear vision, new beginnings, new opportunities, especially with the Fool and the Ace coming out together side by side. Be aware of some doubts or some distress that are coming through the mind center. And then Queen of Wands. And now maybe I'll pick an oracle card too, just to see if there's any other, any other theme that wants to come through that relates to these images for us. Any other messages that want to come through? Any other themes that need to come through to help clarify this messaging? The crow and dogwood. Well, crows and ravens are very scrying, divination, witchy birds. And porcupine and anemone. Intelligence. The crow is an incredibly intelligent bird associated with the power of foresight and the ability to use tools. Today, it's often used to signify darkness or foreboding, but modern descriptions rarely do the crow justice. According to Norse folklore, the crow is a powerfully positive symbol meant to remind us of our skills and resources. It says, "You are capable of solving any problem." Like the crow, the dogwood has a somewhat confused public image. Its beautiful light-colored petals, there we are with those white petals, convey gentleness and whimsy. Few know that its hard bark and strong frame make it an uncommonly durable tree, able to withstand even the harshest weather. You have the tools to fulfill your goals and solve any problem that stands in your way. You need only look inward to find wisdom and strength. I love it. That's so perfect. And in fact, the tarot cards that I pulled are from Frank Duffy's deck, which is the Queer Crow Death Magic or tarot deck. And so crows are a big theme in Frank's deck as well. And then we have the porcupine and anemone. Again, white petals. There are white petals in both of these cards here. That's so cool. I love how that theme is one of the biggest to come through, white flowers. So the porcupine and anemone. The porcupine with its impressive quills is a well-known symbol of self-defense. According to a legend common among Anishinaabe tribes, the porcupine got its quills by placing the branches of a hawthorn tree on its back, defending itself against the bear. Nanabozho, the trickster spirit in Ojibwe myth, saw the porcupine's cleverness and fashioned it a coat of quills to wear from then on. Just as the porcupine curls into a ball to defend itself from predators, the anemone flower turns inward and down during rainstorms, protecting its delicate petals from damage. And this card came in the reverse. Take care not to judge others who seem bristly or closed off. Consider that they may have good reason to protect themselves from harm. Respect their boundaries, allowing them time to open up on their own terms. So that's going to be it for this reading. I hope that this obsidian mirror gaze was useful to you in some way, and I highly recommend going back and watching or listening to other posts in this podcast, especially if you like scrying divination work, because this podcast itself is almost exclusively dedicated to scrying, although there are many readings that also involve card pulling. Scrying is the main theme of this podcast, which is something I have quite a bit of skill in and enjoy doing. So if you like archetypal imagery and scrying work, check out this podcast. It's going to have a lot of interesting information in it for you. And like I said, I'd like to just speak this out into existence, that I'd like to resume doing the moon cycle scrying sessions. I found them really gratifying, but it takes discipline to do it every moon cycle. And it also takes trust in the scrying process. And so I had needed to regroup for a little while before deciding whether I wanted to do that again or not. So again, thank you for being here. My name is Cynthia. Please check out any of the work on my channel that intrigues you or catches your eye. It's all timeless. And I'll see you next time.